Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Esli if you're new here, and today we're going to be talking about a subject that's still pretty difficult for me to talk about, and we are about a year in. Yeah, I guess we'll just kind of get into it. I want to talk to y'all about how it happened, why it happened, even though I technically don't have a definitive cause, and part of the reason why I want to film this video is to raise awareness. I had no idea this was something that could happen, and you know, as with most things, we don't know that they can even happen until they happen to us or to someone very close to us. So if you found this video because it happened to you, I want you to know that you are not alone, that it is just as difficult as you're feeling, that it is a big process that you have to mourn and grieve, and that the anxiety is normal and that you're not alone. If you are watching this video because you know somebody that this happened to and you want to try to understand more about it, first of all, from that person, I want to thank you, because anybody that wants to try to understand more from it, I think that that's really, really helpful. I am very, very fortunate that I have an amazing support system, an amazing husband, family members, you know, my sisters, my mother, my father, my husband, like they all really went out of their way, I think, to like research and try to figure out what they could do, you know, how they could help me. So, you know, I think if you are doing that for somebody else, you are amazing. Thank you for doing that for that person. And if you just happen to, you know, just be a normal subscriber of mine and watch my videos and just kind of want to hear more about my story, then I hope that I can truly just share, like I said, raise awareness, but also so that you kind of understand a little bit of my mindset and why I, you know, took a big break, why I've been gone, and why I've struggled a lot with my mental health and things, because a lot of it was because of this happening. I do want to add a trigger warning before we get too far into it, because I had a very, very tough time, especially in the beginning, to where I can 100% tell you that I did not want to be here. I did not want to be alive. I did not want, and I know that talking about those things can be very triggering to a lot of people, so just something I want to mention up front. I don't want anybody to be kind of caught off guard by those types of conversations. So let's go ahead and kind of get started. So first of all, what I've been diagnosed with is sudden sensorineural, it's hard for me to pronounce it, sensorineural, I don't even know, I'll write it, I'll put it here on the screen, hearing loss, also known as instant deafness. I went completely deaf in my right ear, a profound loss, meaning I had zero word recognition in my ear. There was one type of sound, like 1 decibel type, that I could kind of hear a noise from, but that was it. But it was like dead silent, like my ear stopped functioning. And I also have constant tinnitus, nonstop. And that's part of what makes this so difficult. So, okay, let's just, I guess, start at the beginning. I was pregnant. I was 9 months pregnant. I was very, very pregnant. My husband and I knew that our kind of days of being by ourselves were numbered, you know, so we decided to go out for a date night. We went to a little pizza place. We were sitting outside because of the, you know, the virus and things. We decided to, at that point, especially because I was pregnant, we weren't going inside of any building basically. So we were sitting outside and, you know, enjoying our pizza, enjoying the breeze, and out of nowhere I started hearing a ringing in my ear. and I didn't realize that I couldn't hear out of that ear. I just started hearing a ringing in my ear, and it was like bothersome, annoying, but you know, I feel like it happens sometimes where you like kind of get like a weird staticky or like something in your ear, and it just, you know, happens for like a few seconds sometimes and it just goes away. So as I'm sitting there, you know, I'm just kind of ignoring it, just thinking it's gonna go away. Again, I didn't realize at the time that I had lost my hearing. I was just enjoying my date night. As we're like, you know, sitting there talking and eating our pizza, and I keep telling to my husband, like, the sound is like really irritating, like it's bothering me. But again, I was just trying to put it out of my mind. After dinner, we went for a little walk, and again, during our little walk, I was like, this is bothering me, like, this is super annoying, super annoying. We go back home, and my mom was actually staying with us because I was so heavily pregnant. I was expected to, you know, go into labor at any time around that time. So my mom was staying with us because she was going to stay with us to help take care of the baby after, you know, after we came home from the hospital. And when I got home, my mom said, hey, like, you know, if your ear is ringing, she's like, I've heard that that's sometimes related to like blood pressure, you know, because you're pregnant. Obviously there's a risk of especially if you have high blood pressure. I don't have and didn't have at the time any kind of high blood pressure, but you know, that's something she thought that could be causing it. So I had a blood pressure machine at home. I had been checking my blood pressure during pregnancy because I was scared that I could get preeclampsia, which I ended up getting postpartum preeclampsia, but that's a whole other story. I checked my blood pressure. It was okay. It was like a little bit high. It was like in the 130s, but like nothing to be alarmed of. It was probably the anxiety of the noise, you know, that had my blood pressure a little bit elevated. And out of an abundance of caution, we decided to go to labor and delivery, just, you know, just to get checked out, get baby checked out. We go, you know, I tell them like this ringing in my ear, it won't stop. It sounded like someone was screaming straight into my ear. It was the loudest noise. That just, you know, you think there's no way other people can't hear this because it was so loud. And, you know, in labor and delivery, they don't even have like the things to like check your ears. They told me, oh, you probably have allergies. Allergies are really bad right now. Here's a Zyrtec. They gave me a Zyrtec, sent me home. By the time I got home, the ringing was still there, but it wasn't as loud. So I was like, oh, the medication's working, you know, that's what I thought. Went to sleep. Next morning, it's still ringing. And at this point is when I start noticing I can't hear. I can't hear out of this ear. But again, I didn't realize that I was like completely deaf. Like it was, I honestly don't know if the hearing loss like happened the second that the ear started ringing. I'm assuming so, because that's kind of a symptom of hearing loss, is the ringing, the tinnitus. But I was not thinking about that, or I was not like concentrated on that. So anyway, next morning I again am you know, really bothered by this noise, really bothered. My husband had gone to work, and the whole day I'm texting him like, I cannot stand this noise, it is so loud. Like, it was freaking me out the whole day. So when he gets home, he once again takes me back to the hospital. This time we decide to go to like the normal ER, so not the labor and delivery, but just normal, so that they could check my ear. So I get there and I tell them, and they kind of like say like, oh, you probably have like a wax clog or something. We'll check you in right now. So, you know, I was like, okay, like it's probably just wax, you know, gross, but it's fine. They take me in, they look in my ear, and the guy goes, and then he looks in my other ear and he's like, he's like, both your ears look perfect. They both look exactly the same. He's like, you're only hearing the ringing in one ear. And I said, yes, only in my right ear. And he started going like this, and he says, can you hear that? And I said, no, I cannot hear like this sound. If I put it over here, I hear it, but if I put it over here, I cannot hear the sound at all. So he's going like this. I'm like, no, I can't hear that. And so he goes away, he comes back, and he says, okay, I need you to try to hum. And so I go hum. He's like, can you hear yourself in your ear, you know, the ear you're having the ringing in? Can you hear yourself hum? And that's when I said, no, I don't think I can. And it was like hard to sometimes differentiate where a noise is coming from. But I could definitely tell I wasn't hearing it on my right side. And he says, okay, you really need to go see a specialist, like an ENT. You know, this is something that needs to get looked at right away. So he actually, there at the hospital, they made me an appointment, an emergency appointment with an ENT the following morning. So this was October 8th at this point, because the original hearing loss happened, or like the original ringing and, you know, what I thought was like my hearing going away, happened on the 6th of October of 2020. So on the 8th, I have my ENT bright and early in the morning. He looks at my ear, you know, my ear looks perfect. He says this is called sudden sensorineural hearing loss, also referred to as sudden deafness. I'm gonna go ahead and give you a steroid shot in the ear, like directly into your eardrum. So they actually make a little hole there and then they shoot the steroid into that. It's very uncomfortable, hurts. The little hole, they do numb it so that, you know, you don't have as much pain. But it's not a pleasant experience whatsoever. And I, you know, had the shot. He said, I need to see you at like next week at this time, and we need to do several rounds of this. It was three shots I ended up having in my ear, to see if you're going to be able to gain back some hearing. Now, I know now, I didn't know at the time, but I know now that some people are prescribed like antibiotics or other medications. My doctor did not prescribe any of that. And I'm pretty sure it's because I was so heavily pregnant. You know, obviously they can't just kind of give you anything when you're pregnant. So if you don't kind of, from what I've heard from another doctor, because I've been to several different ENTs now just to get a second opinion, to, you know, because when this happens to you, you just desperately want to try to find answers. And it basically, you have a very limited window of things that can affect your hearing to regain any. So if this happens and you wait weeks and weeks or months and months, there's a very small chance that you can regain any hearing. What my original ENT told me was that with the shots, you know, 1 week apart, that I had an up to 70% chance of regaining some hearing, and about a 30% chance that my hearing would just return to normal. So not the best odds as far as returning to normal, but 70% to regain hearing. I was like, okay, well that's, you know, I can work with that. That made me feel better. So I was fully expecting my baby's blanket. I'm like, just hugging it here. I was fully expecting for it to, you know, go back to normal. That night, I actually was induced. I went into labor that night. Next day, I had my baby. And if you've seen my other videos, obviously I'm not going to get into all of that, but we had a very, very tough time in the hospital. My baby was born with a heart condition that we didn't know about while I was pregnant. So we had a very long, we had a 6-week hospital stay. I also had a lot of complications after labor and delivery, and but like I said, that's a whole other topic. So what I just want to talk about is like the hearing loss, how that impacted kind of everything around that time. Within the first few weeks, I was so sure, I was so caught up in everything that was going on with my baby that I was trying my best to just ignore this sound in my ear. And I was just, you know, thinking, it's okay, my hearing's gonna come back, you know, it's just gonna take a few weeks, it's fine. So in the first few weeks, it was mostly like denial, right? Denial. Because I was so hopeful, and I was so sure that it was gonna come back and it was gonna be normal. Unfortunately, that was not the case for me. I went from profound hearing loss, and then when they tested me about a month after, I was still considered profound. The hearing loss was still considered profound. Right now it's considered severe, so it's like up a little notch. I am now at 30% word recognition in my right ear. I still have constant tinnitus. I can't really make out. I mean, 30%, that is in obvious perfect conditions with, you know, in the room that's like soundproof with headphones on and it being blasted into your ear. Under that perfect condition, then I have a 30% word recognition. So no, my ears is basically useless in, you know, real life scenarios. About 4 or 5 days after the initial hearing loss, when I was discharged from the hospital, my first couple of nights at home, and for some reason it didn't happen right away, and I don't remember experiencing that in the hospital. I was also heavily medicated, you know, from labor, so I'm not sure if maybe I just didn't notice it. But I had very bad vertigo for about 2 or 3 days, where anytime I like closed my eyes, I just felt like I was on a boat, you know, in the middle of the ocean, like rocking back and forth. It was a very bad vertigo. Had a lot of kind of dizzy spells and things. If you don't know, your ear controls your balance pretty much. So obviously, you know, having issues there is going to cause balance and other kinds of problems. It was after my 3rd shot, so the 3 weeks passed, still in the hospital, still having a really hard time. Now, I don't want to say that it was only because of my hearing loss. I was obviously in a very bad spot with everything going on with my daughter, my brand new newborn baby, but and I was also experiencing, you know, postpartum hormones and things. So I don't want to say that it was only because of my hearing loss, but that was a big reason. There were more than a couple of times that I told my husband, I don't know if I can do this because of the sound, because of the blaring noise, the non-stop noise in my ear. I don't know if I want to do this. Who wants to live a life where they're like basically being yelled at constantly? That's what it felt like. It felt like it was gonna drive me crazy, like it was gonna make me mad, because it was so strong. It is still a lot of the times. It's just not something that goes away, unfortunately. But I can say with certainty that if it weren't for my daughter, I don't think I would be here. That's how bad it's been. And then there's also the constant anxiety of what if it happens to my other ear. And then I can't hear anything at all. And then I'm just stuck with this awful sound for the rest of my life. In the beginning, I was so afraid that I was gonna lose my other ear that I remember trying really hard to memorize every sound that my daughter was making, because I was thinking I'm never gonna get to know what her voice sounds like. So any tiny little grunt, I was trying so hard to memorize it. I kept telling my husband to tell me I love you. I had my husband tell me I love you, just so I could memorize the sound of his words saying that. The sound of his voice. I remember calling my sisters, you know, I usually talk to them through like text message and things, and I just remember wanting to hear everybody's voice just in case I lost my other ear, because it was tough. It was really tough. All right, y'all, I had to take a minute, and now I have a friend. So I think that kind of gives you a bit of an idea of headspace, kind of mindset of where I was at. For those that, if you found this video, like I mentioned, and you are, you know, maybe somebody that you know is going through this, something you need to know is that it's not just like, oh, you know, my ear's ringing. It's constant. It is non-stop, like someone yelling in your ear. There's no silence. There's no way to like fully concentrate anymore. There is no breaks. It is exhausting sometimes. A lot of the times. Hearing, you know, it's not just like, oh, I hear you talking, but now I know, having lost this one ear, it is, I've heard people refer to it as like a scarless affliction. So you don't see it, right? There's nothing physically wrong with me. You can't see me bleeding. I'm not missing an arm. I'm not anything, right? It's just permanently in my head. I have ringing. Sorry, that's a medication alarm. One's about to go off in another 30 minutes. It's having both ears, hearing ears, allows you to be able to discern where sound is coming from. I no longer have that ability. I always think sound is coming from, you know, my left side, when things will clearly be happening over here. My brain somehow weirdly assigns where a sound is coming from. Like if I know, like if I know that my husband, say, is, or whoever, somebody whose voice I recognize is standing on my right hand side, if I hear him, it's like I know he's on the right hand side. Like my brain will attach the sound. But then, for example, it happened once where he was on his phone and he started playing a video and he was like on my right hand side. I didn't know he was on his phone, so like on, you know, watching a video. So whenever we were talking, it's like I could tell he was on my right hand side, but then all of a sudden that video started playing and I don't know where that sound is coming from. You know, I got so scared because I was like, what's, like, who's playing a sound over here? But it was just how the noise bounces, you know, into my ear. It is life altering. It is not, it's very, very difficult. It is very isolating. It is very lonely. It's very hard for me to now discern voices. So having two ears, two functioning ears, also gives you the ability to distinguish a background noise from a, you know, like a primary noise, someone talking to you. So now any noise just sounds the same, you know, like they're the same. So I have a lot of trouble with bags for some reason. So like if someone's putting a trash bag, you know, that sounds like it like blares into my ears. Certain noises just sound like they blare, like they vibrate into my head now. When we are, you know, we've gone to have dinner with our families, we had dinner with like our friends. So if it's a group of people, the people directly on my right, I cannot hear at all. Or it'll sound like a mumble. And then all the other voices kind of all crisscross, which is very difficult to understand. You know, someone tells a joke, everybody laughs, and you're just kind of there like, because it's very, very difficult to be with a large group of people. It's very, I mean, honestly, a lot of times I just stay quiet now because it's too hard to even try to understand. When not only do I only have one functioning ear now, but this ear has constant noise. So it's like that's masking, you know, this like loud blaring sound. I will say that I do have good ear days, bad ear days, where my tinnitus, sometimes it's so bad that I can't function. Like I can't function. I can't think. Like it's like thinking is too difficult because it's so loud. And there's other times where it's really low and it sounds just kind of like a hum, and then it's okay. You know, I can kind of go through life and it's a little bit easier to bear, but I still can't hear. So, you know, those challenges are still there. It's really hard. It's hard to explain. It's really difficult to explain to somebody that it's not just like plugging your ear, you know, everything has changed. I don't enjoy music as much. I don't enjoy anything, any sound as much. I also feel better now having constant sound. So I will have a sound machine on or the TV on or anything on just constantly, because having a sound distracts me from the sound that's in my head. So that helps a lot. But the anxiety never goes away. The what if, especially because I have no known cause for my tinnitus, or my hearing loss. Originally I was told that it could be because of pregnancy hormones, that there is a chance that the pregnancy caused it. For some women it is a very, very, very rare pregnancy complication. I've also been told that it was most likely a virus, an unidentified virus that just attacks the inner ear, which rendered it useless basically. I've been tested for about 1 billion autoimmune disorders that could be a cause, but I've been negative for everything so far that they've been able to test. So there's no known cause, and that's really difficult to kind of understand, because a lot of the times acceptance comes from having something to accept, right? You know, such and such caused it, and I don't have that. For most people that, you know, experience this sudden deafness, they don't have that. It's, you know, a random virus. There's no cure. There's nothing. Both doctors, just the ENTs, not, I've also talked to like audiologists. But the ENTs that I have seen, one of them told me they can prescribe me antidepressants because there's nothing else they could do for me. And the other one told me that I should go to therapy because there's nothing else they can do for me. So it is you have to live with this for the rest of your life. So I will never know silence again. Sorry, I keep taking little breaks because it's hard to describe, it's hard to talk about, and it's really hard for me because I'm still trying to accept it. I think it's very important for anybody that isn't going through this. Maybe you have somebody, like I mentioned, if you know somebody, I think it's very important to try to understand how incredibly life-altering this is. This isn't, it's not something easy to just begin to deal with, you know, when you've had 2 functioning ears. I mean, we're made with 2 functioning ears for a reason. They work off of each other, they work together. We're not meant to just have 1 ear, 1 functioning ear, and it's very difficult to adapt, adjust. In the very beginning, there was one instance where we were still in the hospital. My daughter was still in the hospital. I walked out. I was gonna walk to, I was alone at that day. Luis, I think, was back at work already, and I didn't want to drive in the very beginning. I was too afraid, because I thought if someone honks at me, I don't know where that honk is coming from. What if I swerve, hit somebody? Like, I was so afraid of that. I've since started driving again, so I feel a little more comfortable. But in the beginning, I just didn't want to drive. So I was in the hospital, and I decided I was going to walk to get something to eat. And I stepped out of the hospital and into like the valet area, and there was like a bunch of people there, and like car was honking, and it was just a lot of noise, and it felt like a punch in the, like, punch right in the ear, like in the face. And I ran to like a corner of the hospital, and I sat on the floor and just bawled hysterically, because it was so disorienting and it was terrifying. And it has gotten easier. I want, if this just happened to you, I want you to know that it does get easier. It doesn't get easy. It's not any less difficult to kind of navigate things, new experiences especially, but you learn, you adapt, and it does eventually get easier. And I hope, my true hope is it gets even easier for me. Like I mentioned, I'm about a year in, and I am hoping that it gets easier as time continues, but it's not. It hasn't been easy, and I try really hard to avoid the thought like, oh, I'm gonna live with this for the rest of my life. I'm 35 years old. I'm hoping I still have quite a few years, and I have to live with this noise for the rest of my life. I have to live with this blaring in my ear, and that's a really, really hard thought. My biggest piece of advice is to be patient. Be patient with yourself if you're going through this. If you know somebody, be patient with them. It is very tough to not hear somebody and have to ask them to repeat themselves over and over, because you know that person's gonna get frustrated. It's very difficult to truly not be able to understand. But be patient with yourself and explain to people. That's helped me a lot, to explain to close family and friends that I really can't hear you, especially if you're sitting or like towards my right side. For people wearing right now with masks, it's so difficult because At least if I see your lips moving, I know you're talking to me. But if I can't hear you and your lips to me aren't moving, that's extra difficult. So explaining to people, I've also told people, if I can't see you, I can't hear you. So if I'm in another room, you sound just muffled to me if you're trying to yell at me across, you know, room. So it's hard, and it's been a very isolating experience, but I hope you have a good support system, and I hope you know you're not alone. And this is, although it's not common, my doctor said it's not uncommon, happens to about 1 in 10,000 people, and it can happen to anybody, no warning, no illness, nothing, no reason, just all of a sudden you go deaf, and it's tough. Anyway, I hope this was in any way, shape, or form helpful. I feel like it was a mess. But I appreciate y'all coming to listen, and for, you know, giving me a chance to kind of share with y'all my story and how this happened to me. And I truly hope that this does not happen to anybody. But like I mentioned, I'm sure maybe some of you are here because of it has happened to you. And just, you know, seek support. I've joined a lot of groups and a lot of things so I can talk to people that are going through this, so that it's a little less isolating, and that has helped. So that's something I would definitely recommend. But you can always reach out to me if you have any questions, if you want to talk. I am always available. Easiest to get a hold of me through Instagram, so check me out there. But alright, y'all, so I am going to go ahead and end this video. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this story with y'all, and I will talk to y'all very soon. Bye everyone, take care.